Hello, everyone. I'm again ask you for a brief moment to share some thought with you. In our last conversation, I make a reference to the fact that the initial condition a generation finds itself in are unquestionably determined by the decision made of the previous generation. And that's a historical fact, and we all know that. And so, as I'm reaching out and share some of those thoughts with you to look at, from a comparative analysis, what exactly is going on in our world today, we also make reference to the fact that the concept of the world we're referring to is not the earth, it's 8 billion people. That's the world. I also make reference to the fact that we're not well. And by mean we're not well, I'm not referring to your personal health in terms of pathology, but I'm talking about we're not well within ourselves. We know something is not well with us. When we look at our world, we can tell something is not well with the world, meaning us. Historically, we're constantly fighting each other. As you know, that we had World War I that lasts from 1914 to 1918, only to find ourselves 21 years later fighting World War II. It lasts until 1944 and 1945. And then 11 years later, we're fighting another war, the Korean War, and then the Vietnam War, the Iran-Iraq War, the Iran-Israel War. There's a constant fighting going on, and then we all that live either during those wars and after those wars, we are the recipient of those past decisions made by the previous generation. And so here we are again. The wars we are fighting today, much more war that fighting with arms conflict, with bullets and missiles. We're fighting a war for our very own existence in terms of mental, emotional, social, and psychological, and definitely spiritual. So we know something is not well with our world. We constantly engage in conflict, and our central nervous system is constantly on a fight or flight mode, render us paralyzed. We know something is not well with each of us. Look at our families. Look at our children. What kind of world are we living in today? How do you feel within yourself? What's going on within you? When you look at the world around you, what is it telling you? The decision this generation is making today, the decision we are making today, what is it they're telling you about us? There's a lot of people out there who are making a lot of noise, who's telling us how to be happy, how to be consciously aware, how to become aware, how to practice introspection. And we have people come out with rules for lives and rules for living. We're not well. If someone tells you you're not broken, they're misleading you. The concept of we're broken is not a judgment, it's a realization that we are broken. And some of our brokenness, many of us, we're broken because other people came to our lives and they were broken before we met them. And now their life trauma, their lives predicaments become ours to no fault in our own. We're broken because we inherit some of those residual effects from the previous generation. We're also broken with decisions we made ourselves that cause us to experience mental, emotional, and psychological brokenness. Definitely spiritual brokenness. And so every day we are fighting from a broken point of view. If someone tells you we're not broken, they simply are telling us things to make us feel comfortable in misery. The idea of self-realization of brokenness, it simply means that we will take personal responsibility to deal with the things in our lives before we go and trying to tell someone else or share them with someone else. And so we are broken. There's nothing wrong with that self-realization. And so we need to realize that we're living in a broken world. And as I shared with you the last time, that realization also led us to understand that a broken people cannot fix a broken world. Our world is broken because we are broken. Look at our politicians are making false promises. Banks are making false promises. Housing industries are making false promises. Looking at us all across the globe, there are one conflict after another. We are constantly in each other's faces. We don't trust each other. The West don't trust the East. The East don't trust the West. We don't trust anyone. No one trusts us. That's because we don't trust ourselves. And so we are broken. That's a self-realization. Because that self-realization of my own brokenness led me to take personal responsibility to deal with the things in my life before I make them someone else's problem. And then each of us would take that personal responsibility to deal with the things in our life before we make them someone else's life. And so therefore we're living in a broken world because we are broken. One of the issues I talk about a lot is trauma. And I often tell my client to realize we are living in a traumatized world. We constantly traumatize each other. I'll tell you a little bit things about myself that you need to know it. But soon after 9/11, I stopped watching TV. I do not watch TV. I don't watch the news. Now, mind you, I read a lot. If something happened out there and someone tell me about it, and however I heard about it over the radio when I go out, I make it a point to go and read about it. I will research it, and I want independent research, an independent review to have a broad view of what just happened. I do read a lot, but I don't watch the news anymore. I do not. I will not. I have no plan to turn the TV on and start watching news. But we do know that we're not well. We can see it. We can feel it. It's in the air. We feel it in our bodies. Look at our children. Look at our young people. Look at our young men. Look at our young women, if there's such things anymore. We're not well. We're not well mentally, emotionally, socially, psychologically, and definitely we're not well spiritually. Now, please remember, I'm talking about wellness from a personal point of view, not from a disease and from an illness point of view. I talk a lot about mental health, and I always clarify that point. Mental health is not mental illness. Are we well mentally? Are we dealing with the things of our lives? Are we well psychologically? Are we well emotionally? So I am not speaking from a disease point of view. I'm talking about an inner self compass. Are we well in ourselves? So clearly, the things that are happening all around us are indicative that we're not well. And so personal responsibility is the primary element to self-realize where I'm at in my life. What's going on in my life before I make whatever it is going on in my life someone else's problem. And that's 8 billion people dilemma. And so as I invite you to join our podcast, Conversation for the Curious Mind, looking forward to begin to engage you in a conversation. As a matter of fact, next time I talk to you, I will give you the precise date when we will release our first series of monologue explaining the 7 type of noise, as I called it, the 7 deadly noise that brought the world of humanity to its moral, emotional, and psychological decay. The noise makers, our lives that are making those noises. Who making these noises? What those noises means? What is their purpose? What is their meaning? And I hope you're looking forward to join me in this venture to look at these noisemakers our lives are making. And as I said to you before, let me say it again. Please listen.